Alright, so we got some interesting ones here. I know I say they're always all the cars are always interesting, but so none of these cars are cars I'm especially excited about. So we've really got to think about, well, what fits our deck best and what do we think will fit our deck best. So Elven Archer, I mean, it would give us another one drop. We are getting that battle cry usually makes it worth at least a card, but it's usually never worth more than a card. So it's definitely a consideration, a card we could take. Sap is pretty interesting because it has applications throughout the entire game. If our opponent plays a particularly powerful minion, we can send it back to their hand, and we get essentially we can make them skip an entire turn if they go. So they go turn 4 Chillwind Yeti, then we go turn 4 Sap Amani Berserker or something like that. We progress our board and force him to have to replay the Yeti and gain an entire turn. I would say Sap can definitely be really powerful, particularly with how low our curve is and how aggressive our deck is probably going to end up being. I really like Sap in this deck, I think. Shadow Step is interesting. If we had a Leroy, I would probably definitely take this card. But so let's look at the cards we can play Shadow Step with effectively. Doesn't really do anything with Ventrico. Doesn't really do anything with Fen Creeper. We could replay a Stormwind Knight to attack a second time. It's really good, or not really good, but it has some application with SA7 Agent, allowing us to redo some damage, essentially turning Shadow Step into a backstab of sorts. Can reset the Divine Shield and Scarlet Crusader. Doesn't really do anything with Ghoul. We can get additional procs out of Knife Juggler. We can replay a Ringleader for another minion. We could pick up a Ooze if they played a weapon to pop their weapon. But again, not a lot of applications here. I think it's really risky to take a Shadow Step thinking we might get a Leroy or something a little bit more powerful. So Sap's definitely the card I'm going to go with. Huge tempo play, particularly with how low the curve is in our deck and how aggressive our deck is shaping up to be. I think this card fits our deck perfectly, so we'll take this. Alright, another rare slot. So all of these cards are really good in Arena for the most part. Alchemist is probably the worst, although it definitely has a lot of applications against a lot of cards. I was playing an Arena run earlier. I played a Oasis Snapjaw, and I flipped it to be a 7/2 to attack with lethal. I killed a Mirror Image with it, can kill 0 attack minions. So definitely, I like to take this card if my other options are pretty poor, but both these other options are very strong. We already talked about Knife Juggler. Knife Juggler being one of the best 2-drops in the game. Imp Master actually synergizing very well with Knife Juggler as it makes an Imp at the end of each turn, and that'll proc Knife Juggler. You can also, usually most players won't have a lot of good ways to deal with the Imp Master with a single card, so the Imp Master is definitely a very powerful card and fills our curve well. I mean, honestly, it's a very difficult decision here between the Knife Juggler and the Imp Master, because we do have so many 2-drops here. But the Knife Juggler is just so good, I think I'd have a hard time not taking the Knife Juggler here. So I think we're going to take another Knife Juggler just because of how powerful this card is. And alright, another interesting set of cards. Frostwolf Grunt, we've got an Eviscerate, so Frostwolf Grunt's immediately off the table. If we're taking a 2-drop, we're taking the Eviscerate here. Spellbreaker is a really strong card. I don't think it's quite as good as the Eviscerate, Eviscerate being one of the better cards that we can take, but Spellbreaker is really close to Eviscerate. I'm not that worried about our curve being so low, as I really think these 2-drops will allow us to overtake the early game very well, so I'm going to take the Eviscerate. But if you find yourself in this kind of situation, you're worried about your not having enough 4-drops, I think you could take the Spellbreaker. Eviscerate really isn't a 2-drop so much as it is just a removal spell that you can use at any point in the game. So I mean, that's how I look at it. Vice is looking at it as another 2-drop. It's going to make this bar bigger, but it really shouldn't count in the same way as for considering curve. You mostly want to be looking at minions. Spellbreaker is one of the more powerful neutral minions, as the silence can sometimes serve as kind of the equivalent to removal. And a 4/3 body for 4 mana, while not on curve, is still decent, and that silence really puts him over the top. But again, we're going to take Eviscerate here.